Hello and welcome. I'm Austin Kovarchik, arranger and composer. Today bringing you a very special video celebrating the 1 year anniversary of my YouTube channel. So in this video, I figured I'd lean on a topic I've talked about a few months back, about how I think that composers should play as many instruments as they're able to. And just kind of back myself up, in a sense, by showing off the collection of instruments I've amassed while aspiring to that exact goal. Let's get right into it. So we're starting kind of with the upper woodwinds, we'll say. There's no good way for me to format this video that doesn't skew heavily towards woodwinds, just because I specialize in woodwinds. I started out playing the clarinet, and it just kind of evolved into other woodwinds from there. So the vast majority of this collection is very woodwind skewed. It's very much where I enjoy what I enjoy playing and what I play the most. So it's the instruments that I've naturally picked up the most of. We'll start off here with a personal favorite little almost novelty of mine. This is a Garkline recorder. Weighing in at a massive size of my face, this thing is very high-pitched, and I don't remember when, why, or how I bought it, other than the fact that I think I ordered it on Amazon. Do I really have a reason for using this? Not particularly. I don't even play it much. My dog hates it, so it kind of collects dust on a shelf right behind me. But, just in case, I can plunk out a few notes here and there on it. Similar to that is my Sopraneo recorder, which I believe I picked up at a music educators conference 2 to 3 years ago. Because I recognize the company name, but I'm not entirely certain. This, again, gets very little use, but, you know, if I'm going to play as many instruments as I can, gotta have as many as I can. That doesn't go so much for the next one. This is a soprano recorder that I've had since elementary school, so going on over 10 years now, around 10 years now. That's a scary thought. Yeah, a lot of memories with this thing. It doesn't sound good. I don't play it for anything. This is more of a sentimental holding on to kind of thing. But, you know, memories are important too. This next one is also a soprano recorder. This one comes from, I think, that same conference that the Sopraneo comes from. Because this one I actually attended a talk given about recorders in the classroom and using technology and recorders in the classroom. And it was sponsored by this company, Parapol or Angel. I don't remember what their actual company name is. I just know they have a few lines. But they gave out one for every attendee, which was really neat. Cool talk, too. This next one is from a few years before that. That would be my alto recorder, an Angel, same company. I believe I got this one when I was in a state honors band in high school. We walked through the conference I mentioned earlier, and a few years earlier than that one, and I saw this and decided I needed it for some reason. I have a lot of fond memories of this. Before this YouTube channel, I tried posting covers, something I didn't do for very long. But I remember this one was particularly instrumental in a cover of Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time's Zelda's Lullaby. This played the main melody for most of it. This next one was inspired in a way by seeing Les Mis in theater. This is a tenor recorder. I don't know exactly which book it is, but I'm very certain one of the books has tenor recorder. And I went to see Les Mis with my French club in high school. And I remember looking down at the pit, and this guy's playing bass clarinet at one moment. I looked back down, and he's playing this huge recorder the next. And I was like, dang, that would be perfect for me. That's where it came from. Next up is another one that came about because of my... You could almost say came about because of my Zelda addiction. This is a 12-hole C ocarina. One that I do not play very often. I'm not very good at it, and it is a nightmare to get good at. It's also a rather recent, a recent acquire. But yes, 12-hole ocarina in C. Light blue, just like the Ocarina of Time is, which is why you can tell that I have a Zelda problem. This next one came about because I was on a day trip with some buddies over the summer. I want to say right before my final year of high school. We drove up to Door County in Wisconsin. Amazing place. Love it up there. Beautiful, beautiful nature. Even better, they have cherry farms everywhere where you can pick your own cherries. Yeah, love Door County. But we went up there for a day trip, and we were up there in one of the towns. I don't know which one, but it's some kind of touristy music shop. I found this for, I want to say, around 25 bucks. This is a shakuhachi. It's a type of Japanese flute. And this determines the very far end of my playing abilities spectrum. As in, I cannot get a single note to come out of this. I've had this for multiple years now. I've attempted multiple times. I've tried multiple ways. Nothing. Can't get a single sound out of it. Don't particularly care. I love it. The shakuhachi is a fascinating instrument. There's a very distinct playing philosophy behind it that I found fascinating. But I think what inspired me to get this was Zach Zinger. Watching him play Giant Steps on one of these. A far, far better version. Like, much, much better instrument. But that was super cool, and I think that's what kind of got me to impulse buy this while we were up there. You'll notice a theme here when I talk about a lot of instruments that kind of impulse bought. But yeah, this next instrument is no impulse buy. In fact, viewers of the channel might recognize this one already, because this is a PVC flute that I handmade. It doesn't play very well, but I'm proud of it. It's my first attempt at making something that was not a clave, and therefore, a step in the right direction. Following up that PVC flute comes an actual flute. This is my open hole low B foot flute. I got this in my first year of college. I was playing a lot of flute in the big band, which was strange considering I was playing the bari part. But I decided, I was fed up with playing closed-hole school instruments, and I was like, all right. And kind of bullied my mother into helping me buy this. So, there's that. And that kind of brings us to the end of my little upper woodwind section. I'll move on next to a family of instruments that's very near and dear to my heart. So, when I started learning how to play an instrument, really learning how to play band in 6th grade, my parents went out, I think it was on Craigslist, and found me this Vito clarinet, plastic, made in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And I have used this thing ever since. It has quite literally been 7+. It has quite literally been about 10 years since I started playing this. And it is a workhorse. I've tried multiple other instruments, and I just always feel like I sound better on this one. Maybe it's familiarity, maybe it's sentimentality, but my first actual instrument, so not the oldest one in the video by chance, but yeah, fond memories, still get a lot of use out of it. B-flat plastic Vito clarinet. Next up in the collection is a Yamaha clarinet, a YCL 61, wooden clarinet that I do not use at all. This sits in a box in my room, and I tell myself one day I'm going to fix this up so it's actually playable and might sound good. That day never comes. One day it might. I keep telling myself that, as if I don't have several other project instruments already. Oh yeah, that's... But yes, wooden Yamaha YCL 61. One of their intermediate line. This next clarinet, as we are talking solely about clarinets in this little segment, I hate to break it to you, was an eBay auction. I had been doing some research on Harry Carney, personal hero of mine. Love Harry Carney. And I had recently found out what disposable income was because I was a high schooler working my first job. So I was looking on eBay, and for $160, this is a like Henry. I literally can't even read that anymore. Henry Farney or something. I'm probably butchering that. Albert system clarinet. Completely different keywork system, made out of wood from the 1950s. For $150. That's where this came from. It's wildly out of tune, and that might just be because I don't know how to play with a German style or with the Albert style fingering style, but oh yeah, that's definitely a problem. But yeah, this is one of those other projects I'm working on. This also just kind of sits in a box in my room, but it is a beautiful, beautiful instrument. Looks gorgeous. We are back in the realm of impulse buys, because this is a G clarinet from Amazon. Slightly longer than your average B-flat clarinet. There are a number of things I don't like about it, and I never really have a reason to use it. But I own one, so in some way, shape, or form, I will eventually find a reason to use it. It's also a different fingering system, I want to say, than the traditional B-flat. Probably leaning closer towards a modern Albert key system. But it's a fascinating instrument, very cheap, and an impulse buy from Amazon. So yeah. This next instrument is kind of honestly the reason I put off making this video until now. I was waiting for a shipment of these to come in so I could purchase one. This would be the Kessler Custom Low C bass clarinet, 2nd generation, which just arrived about 2 weeks ago for me. Or longer now. Oh, almost three or 4 weeks ago now. But this is a beauty I've been waiting to get my hands on for a while. I'm, by trade, basically a bass clarinetist. It's primarily what I play when I play in school ensembles or for other things. And I have been looking for my own instrument for the longest time, and I needed something that wouldn't break the bank, because I am paying my own way through college, and that is expensive. So when I found the Kesslers, and I saw the wonderful reviews online about how sturdy this was and how well it worked, especially at its price point for a low C bass clarinet, I was sold. So this bad puppy came in recently. Haven't gotten to play it as much as I'd like, just with other responsibilities in real life. Though it did get some time to show off recently. When I opened my grandfather's funeral with a small piece of music with it. So already making memories, and already a beloved member of the family. But that will be all for the clarinet section. Next will be more of a miscellaneous type, we'll say. So this next section is a little more miscellaneous just because I don't own too many other instruments in a concentrated family, let's say. Or I do, but I'll save those other sections for the end. So I figured I'd best put these in the middle. This is a trombone. I want to say a Jupiter trombone. I cannot remember. I kind of got this when I half inherited it when my brother quit high school marching band and band in general. However, the trombone has already been paid off. So, kind of just took it under my care. It gets some use, but not too much, because I have access to a trigger trombone that I don't own, so that gets more use. What can I say? But a good addition to the trombone family, a good addition to my instrument family, and lets me practice away from school. So that's nice. This next instrument is... how do I describe it? Some people have described it as natural birth control, or very effective birth control, or a great way to not get a girlfriend in high school. I am, of course, talking about the accordion. This would be the accordion I found in my grandparents' basement. I have no clue where it comes from. I don't actually remember why they had it in their basement, and it was just sitting in there longer than I've been alive. So sometime in high school, when I got approached to... No, sometime in high school, my grandparents brought it up. And I was like, oh, I'm big into music. I'll take that accordion. And from there, it was nothing but downhill. I got drafted into our school polka band. Not a problem. I loved the school polka band. The problem was that girls don't like guys who are in a polka band. Even in a town which has a much higher than average number of polka bands, playing the accordion in a polka band will not exactly make you popular with teenage girls, as I found out when I was a sophomore in high school. Still, plenty of fond memories with this thing. I even marched a parade with it one time for Christmas, which was freezing and terrible. But yeah, that is my accordion. If you're here on this channel, you've probably seen my most popular video, which was an instrument tier list. In that I ranked the accordion, and I told a joke about how when you have one accordion, people will just find excuses to give you more. That is exactly what happened with me. Someone I knew was like, hey, you want this accordion? And I went, sure, why not? So now I have 2 accordions. This is a classical guitar from, I want to say, the late 50s, early 60s, 1960s. Belonged to my grandfather before he passed away. He gave it to me a few years back. Just because, you know, it sat in a closet collecting dust in his house. And I was big into music. So it just kind of naturally found its way to me. Especially because my cousin, the only other person in the family who's big into music, already had a guitar. I was the first one to find out that this was not a normal acoustic guitar, and in fact a classical guitar. And yeah, I don't play it much. It doesn't get a whole lot of use, but some fond memories with it nonetheless. Now, when I said I didn't play classical guitar much, I can at least understand how to play classical guitar. Regular electric guitar, on the other hand, I do not understand in the slightest. So this, my Squier Jazzmaster, is basically decoration. I will one day learn how to play this. I have this intense, deep-seated concept that I am one day going to write a rock ballad, which will include electric guitars and many, many effects, after I figure out how to write for and play the electric guitar. Until that day, this will get used when my friends come over, yell at me for it being severely out of tune, and then play really weird songs like Wonderwall or the Arctic Monkeys, while I try to make us do something fun, like play a game together. But no, they will just play songs in my room. Now, when we're talking about instruments that get a lot of use, this electric bass right here gets so much use. For some reason, I'm known as a bass player at college. I play upright and electric, and this comes out every so often. I've played, you know, pit gigs. I've played theater pits. I've played with jazz bands. I've even played for at least a church service or 2. I've played rock stuff. I've played whatever. I have gotten so much use out of this thing in the few years I've had it. I don't remember the story behind this. It was a gift. I don't know. But yeah, this sees a ridiculous amount of use compared to many of these other instruments. Lots of good memories, lots of fun times playing. But that'll bring the close to our little miscellaneous trombone, accordion, string section here. And we'll head on to the next section. Now, I'm not good at piano. I'm not particularly fond of playing it all that often. However, I seem to have amassed a strange number of keyboards. This, for example, as you've seen in basically all of my videos for the past quite some time, is my primary keyboard. I found out just today, actually, that I can use this as a MIDI controller, so still discovering new things. I use this for general practice, general writing, all that kind of stuff. It's used probably once a day, at minimum. So, I get a lot of use out of it. Behind me, on that shelf, are 4 more keyboards. We'll start with the smallest. Actually, this might not be the smallest. We'll start with the funniest. This is a melodica. I'm sure you know what many of these are. This was another impulse buy. I just kind of do that. There was a phase right before I started college where I was like, oh, you can buy instruments on Amazon? Why did no one tell me this? And I bought like 4 of them. The results of that. This right here is a MIDI controller I purchased to use as a MIDI controller. It doesn't get a whole lot of use anymore just because I really don't know how to use MIDI. That's a journey that comes and goes fairly often for me. And now that I know that this big keyboard is a MIDI controller, I don't foresee this getting a lot of use. So, back to the shelf. This keyboard will be discussed later. What's left back there is an old Casio keyboard that before this piano's acquisition, I want to say around December of last year, was my primary keyboard, the thing I used the most to write and such when I couldn't go to an actual piano. It's not a full keyboard. It sounds really bad, and I think it's actually dying. I genuinely think it's not going to play anything much more. I think the speakers themselves are going. Oh well. I have this vague notion one day I'll learn a bunch about electronics and turn it into a MIDI keyboard. But until that day comes, it's just going to sit on my shelf. And that's the keyboard section for the most part. On to percussion. Now my percussion selection is not massive. It is, in all honesty, a combination of just some random acquisitions and things I've made myself. But they're still percussion instruments. We have first up one of the most important instruments in any percussionist lineup, the classic egg shaker. Yes, beauty incarnate. The most complex thing you can think of. Or not. It's a shaker. I don't remember where that came from. I honestly couldn't tell you. Next up we have a set of claves, which I have. I don't know why. Probably one of those things I just kind of purchased off Amazon or from my local music store. This might be a local music store purchase. Alongside that set of claves, we have another set of claves, but these are handmade. For reference, at some point, I had a piece of birch, a really long piece of birch, an actual stick that was cut off of a tree when my grandfather was cutting down trees in his yard. And I was like, what if I made these into claves? So basically just took the bark off, sanded it down a bit. Claves. This was another one of those, someone gifted me this acquisitions. This is a Guiro that is really old and in absolutely horrible shape. You can't see it on the video, I doubt, but there is an absolutely massive crack running between my 2 fingers all the way down the side of this thing. The other side of this is not in much better shape. But yeah, Guiro. It looks like a fish. I love it. He looks happy. I'm glad. I have the beater for that in my stick bag, which is full of miscellaneous sticks that I will not be showing in this video. Next up we have another self-made percussion instrument. The Sumantra. If you've seen my recent video about these, you won't be surprised to find out that there's 2. If you haven't, these are basically 2x4s that I cut up a little bit. Basically handholds and carved them to be different lengths. Percussion. On to our final little category. Our final category is the most complex an interesting group of instruments I've ever seen. That's a complete lie. These are all toys. Quite literally. This keyboard I mentioned earlier is a silly, goofy toy keyboard from a company I've never heard of. I liberated it from my sister. We then have one of the classics, the staples, the automaton. My poor buddy who is in desperate need of new batteries. A dear friend of me, a gift from my grandmother. I love him. And then, the most important, the most beautiful instrument in my collection, the kazoo. Yes, that's right, a kazoo. Where are we to see anything better than this? Nowhere, that's where. In all seriousness, I've enjoyed showing this all off to you. You know, it's not much. I genuinely didn't know how many instruments I owned before today. They just kind of like pile up in different segments of my room. That and I borrow a fair number from my college at the moment. Like several saxophones that are sitting also on that side of the room. And a viola. But this was a nice little chance for me to put my money where my mouth is. And kind of display how much I really buy into that idea that composers should play a wide variety of instruments and have access to a wide variety of instruments. And even if they're just kind of silly toys, you know? Look at, I believe it's Philip Glass, who wrote a suite for toy piano. So, you know, anything and everything you can use to make music is an instrument. I could have went and grabbed the, 10 wine glasses we have sitting upstairs that never get used, and use those as instruments, even if I didn't have any of these things. But I am very lucky, and I've worked quite hard to have this large collection of instruments to really show off how much I believe in this philosophy that composers should play multiple instruments. And all of these instruments mean, as I think you see, have meant different things to me. So I'm glad I could share that with the wider world. So thank you for 1 year on YouTube. At this time of recording, 50 subscribers. So dual birthday video, 50 subscriber special. And I look forward to seeing you more in the future. And hopefully you look forward to seeing more well-varied content from me. I've been Austin Kopelarczyk, composer and arranger. So thanks. I'll see you next time.